We're going to be talking about proof of authenticity, POA, and why it is the best way to do financial transactions, and it does away with POW, proof of work, and POS, proof of stake, and why this is the way to do decentralized autonomous transactions between individuals and guarantees them privacy and without censorship. So we have a situation right now where Mr. Green here, is trying to pay Mr. Red here. And how does that transaction work? It does that as if we're going to pretend as if they were using gold. And in this situation, Mr. Green will pass the money to Mr. Red, and Mr. Red is when Mr. Red accepts this money, when he looks at it, there is a file which is a self-authenticating file that tells Mr. Red that that money is authentic, and that money, how does Mr. Red knows? That file verifies that the money that Mr. Green is giving to Mr. Red belongs to the money tree over here. And so Mr. Red looks at it and says, okay, this money belongs here to this tree. That means this money is authentic. And that brings to a conclusion the transactions. And this would be a case where in a family, a dad was passing the money to a son or a daughter, and there was trust. So all Mr. Green needs to do here, Mr. Green here, all he has to do is delete the files that they have. But in a situation where trust is an issue, that's what's happened in the larger world context. What will Mr. Red do? Mr. Red knows already this money is in the money tree. That has been guaranteed, but Mr. Red needs to tell the world that there's a change in ownership, that whatever Mr. Green has is no longer valid. This is how you prevent double spend. So what Mr. Red would do, Mr. Red will contact a quorum, and this quorum is 3, 5, 7, usually odd numbers, group of publishers, and say, I am trying to publish a change of ownership, and I have the self-verifying files that really proves that I do have this money, that the money that I have is authentic, and this is what we call it proof of authenticity. So when you provide this file to say, okay, I have authentic files, the quorum will look at it, and once the quorum is satisfied looking at the files that's provided and say, okay, these files they check out, the quorum would now publish it to the entire network. And this happens very, very fast between the client and server architecture between Mr. Red, because Mr. Green in this situation has nothing to do with all the further transaction. The payer just basically transfers the files to the payee, and the receiver now has to do the other job. And this is the ultimate case of buyer beware. So Mr. Red says, okay, I've looked at this file, it checks out, it's in the money tree, and passes it on to the quorum, and the quorum looks at it, re-verifies based on those files, which takes instantaneous. It's like in the blink of an eye, they can verify. This is very small files. And once they are satisfied, they say, okay, we're going to push it to the network, and they push it to the network. They're going to push two files to the network. They push the original files, and they also push the files that verifies it, so the self-verifying files. So the network would have that information, and everybody in the network would update. And this is how proof of authenticity works. And it's instantaneous, it is fast, and there's a lot of privacy going on there, and you cannot break the system because the network itself never really have the physical files. Mr. Red is always just pushing the verification and the checks out, the math, the checks out, but the original files, Mr. Red always have it on them. And this way the network is safe, this way the system is fast, this way the cloud can always tell and say, okay, whatever we just got right now is in the money tree, so we're going to update that money tree. Thank you.